Hey, what's going on? Jake here with Uncommon EDC, and if you're familiar with the channel, you probably already noticed that very different format from all of my previous videos. That's because I'm trying out a new software, OBS, common kind of streaming screen recording software, to record my desktop for a little bit of a different topic than I normally cover on the channel, and that is reading. It's definitely a part of my EDC in a way. If I know I'm going to be somewhere where I want to read, I might take a physical book. But a lot of times when I have the time to read, if you're at, a tire shop, if you're at a doctor's office or the DMV or anywhere where you're just having to wait, you don't necessarily have a book with you. And so having it available on an e-reader like a Kindle or tablet is great, but the e-reader that I usually have on me is actually my phone. And so I wanted to share a bundle that's kind of in the EDC realm that's available for a really good price for a bunch of books. And they're, again, a little bit related to the content on my channel, which is why I kind of thought I'd share it. It's available for about another week by the time this gets published. But before I talk about that, I need to talk about a company called Humble Bundle. And so, if you're familiar with gaming, you may already be familiar with this company. They started out working with game publishers to sell their games at a name your price basis and donate a bunch of the proceeds to charity. And so, how it works, you pay what you want, you get to choose how much you pay, they contribute to charity, and you get DRM free version of those. And so, if you're not familiar with DRM, it's basically, I don't remember exactly what it stands for, but for digital products, DRM free means that you own it forever, basically. So, if you buy something on Amazon, like a digital movie on Amazon, for example, and Amazon goes down, you don't have the file, you just had a key that allowed you access to it. So, unlikely that Amazon goes down, but more likely with games, they're no longer supporting the game 10 years after it's released. And so, if you don't have a DRM copy version of it, that means that once they're no longer supporting it, you can no longer play the game. So, again, not ideal. Everything they do here is DRM friendly, and so you do own it forever, which is nice. Now, I mentioned they started out with gaming. They eventually branched out into a couple different bundles. I'm going to jump over to the bundle page. You can see there's all bundles, games, books, and software. And so I do buy game bundles. That's the main thing I've bought, but I've bought software and books from them in the past as well. And they're always changing. You can see there's a little countdown: 12 days left, 7 days left, 3 days left. And so once those bundles expire, they just put together new bundles, and you can check back in a couple days and there will be a new bundle in its place. But you can see there's games, there's books, and a lot of different variety. No really like entertainment books so much. There's, I guess, this art one that's expiring pretty soon, but I guess this BattleTech Legends is also, it seems like it's specific to a certain game, but sometimes they'll have like mystery bundle where it's mystery books or romance books, stuff like that as well. I'm obviously focusing on a more EDC kind of friendly book bundle because that's what the channel is about, but there's other stuff if you don't particularly care about reading about those topics and you just want books. This is a nice kind of resource for that. Now, also software, nothing super helpful for me right now, but you'll see royalty free music on here or stock photos and stuff like that where you can use it if you're a creator. Similar to, I guess, this Unreal Fantasy. Unreal is an engine that games are built on, and it has some preloaded art that you can use. I don't think any like major game makers are probably using pre-coded or whatever you want to call that art, but if you're a small indie game developer just doing it for fun, it's nice to have those assets readily available because that takes a lot of time. So anyways, let's get into the books. So the bundle that I wanted to talk about today was the Survive Everything bundle. Wanted to get this video up with plenty of time. By the time this goes live, there will be about 8 days left to claim this bundle. And you can see right away, there's 3 items here, but it goes up to 41 items. So I said you can pay what you want, but paying what you want doesn't mean that you get every item. If you pay at least $1, you get these 3 items, and then each bundle is a different tier. So we'll get into that, but first wanted to talk about the right section over here. So this bundle has raised $12,304 for charity so far, and you get it in PDF, EPUB, and MOBI format. Most people are probably already aware of PDF. Anything that can open a PDF, you can read those books on. So you can read them on your desktop. You can print them if you want to because they're PDF. But you also get them in this EPUB and MOBI format, which is formats for various e-readers. So as I mentioned, I like to read these on my phone, and so you can download that EPUB file, put it into your phone, and then read it on the e-reader that comes with the Apple iPhone. And so underneath that, you see pay what you want. As you up the amount, you start seeing these other bundles, and you can also choose custom amounts or select from these amounts on the bottom, which don't actually affect what items you get. Once you're down here, you're already getting every item in the bundle, but you can pre-select those or say $50 if you want to. And so it's up to you. Now, an option that's kind of hidden, which I definitely recommend checking if you're going to buy any of these bundles, is this adjust donation. And the reason for that is it starts out here. It's a default donation. And the default donation, in my opinion, isn't great. It gets 13, so this is on a $25 donation, 13.75 to Skyhorse Publishing, which is the publisher that donated all of these books for this bundle. I do think they should get some money out of this, but if you look at the next line, only $1.25 is going to the charity No Kid Hungry, and $10 is going back to Humble Bundle, which is the company organization that organizes all of this. And so again, I think they should get some of the money because obviously they have staff to pay, websites to design, and curating all of this and working with organizations to gather that. It does cost money, and so I do think they should get money, but I think the focus of it should really be going to that charity. So you can go extra to charity, and it doesn't honestly change it that much. It's a little bit better. 11.88 to the publisher, 3.75 to No Kid Hungry, which is definitely better, but still not great, and then 9.37 to Humble. And so what I like to do is this custom amount, and I'll slide the Humble all the way down, and then I'll try and line up. I guess yeah, let's just do this. I'll try and line up the publisher with the Humble amount. So you can see that means 395 is going to the publisher, so they're still getting a little something. It's obviously not great for the publisher, but they were doing this for charity anyway. 750 going to Humble Bundle, that's the minimum you can do. It changes obviously, like if it's 18 the minimum changes, but that's a minimum you can do because they want to again recoup their costs for curating it, putting it on the website, finding publishers, and all of the work that goes into organizing this. But that does mean that 1355 of that 25 is going to the charity, and so that will line up with increasing this total amount raised for charity, which I think is important for me. I'm obviously buying bundles that are of interest to me, but I still am doing it in part to donate some of that money to charity, which I think is cool. Now, underneath that, you see the charity that it's going to. That's going to be different for each bundle. This one's going to No Kid Hungry, and if you click on it, you can see a little bit more. There's a link to the website, and definitely recommend doing a little bit of research. I'm not great at this, honestly. I think a lot of times I see some things going to charity, and I'm like, that's great. I want to support it a little bit more, but maybe the charity isn't doing the best with allocating the funds to really benefit the people that they're saying they're benefiting. But from my research for this one, Share Our Strength, they seem to be doing a pretty good job. Like their CEOs paid 0.5% of their annual donations, which is pretty good. It's still a pretty high amount, honestly, but I think pretty fair, and they have a good allocation of their money. So they spend 17 cents for every dollar that they raise on advertising to raise that dollar, which is a pretty good ratio. I think they're rated at 88% based on a bunch of different criteria. So this does seem to be a good charity, but if for whatever reason you see this and you do your research, and this is an example that I did not find this in my research, but say you were researching it and you looked at the board and none of them really grew up in poverty, none of them know what it is to be a hungry kid, and you want to donate to an organization where the board understands the plights of who they're raising money for and knows how to best help those people because they lived it, then maybe you want to change it. And so again, that was an example. This is not this is not a real scenario with No Kid Hungry, but say whatever organization it was, you did find that and you wanted to change it, you can select from these pre-suggested charities, but you can also just search for a charity. So if you know the exact one, you can search for it, or if you want to donate to a specific cause like autism awareness, we just did with the Olight flashlight was donating, you can search for autism and find different organizations, and then obviously again go research them yourself. It doesn't pop up with a ton, and so there's probably more than these 14 results. So if you know the specific name, it would be good to search for that specifically. This is just kind of a general topic. But all really cool stuff. There's also a leaderboard, which I don't know, I guess gives you bragging rights. It doesn't do anything, but you can see how much people donated. You can also see like average donation and stuff like that. I believe the average donation on here was pretty low, 1826. And you see that sometimes with bundles that are more than a couple dollars, where a majority of people are just donating the average. But if you're buying this, like for me, I'm planning on buying this tonight. I'm going to donate $25. It's a little bit more than the minimum, and you're still getting a really great deal. 41 items if you donate $25. And so, really great deal. Now, all of that being said, we're already almost 11 minutes in. Hopefully, if you didn't care about any of that, you skipped ahead. But let's go over what actually comes in the bundle. If you donate $1, that's 33 cents a piece, you get 3 items. And so, any amount between this one and the next tier is going to get you these 3 items. Really good kind of entry books, I think, based on the bundle. So the theme behind this is Survive Everything, which I chose because it's more prepper, but it does kind of cross over into the EDC realm. Most preppers are EDCers, not necessarily the other way around, but it definitely, there's a crossover for sure. I always like to say I'm not a prepper, but I prep a lot. I got into prepping when it was popular, and really what came out of that for me was the gear. So I was more into gear, which is why I'm more of an EDCer, but I still do like to keep a few weeks of canned food on hand and gallons of water and stuff like that, just in case. It's more for me. I'm not really an apocalyptic prepper. I don't think, I'm going to survive the end of the world if the world ends. And so I'm more, if I lose my job, I want to be able to still have food on the table. Or if the grocery stores, like at the beginning of the pandemic, didn't have food, I had a small backlog and I rotated it out, make sure it doesn't expire. And so more of that kind of prepping for me. But there are some books in here that really cross over well to the EDC realm, as you'll see when we get into that larger bundle. But with the 3 item bundle, you have the Ultimate Prepper's Handbook, Simpler Living, and Farm Made Essential Skills book. Again, I think this one's good because it's kind of entry level into prepping. It's not super scary, like the world's ending in a week. How are you prepared? Which a couple of the books in the other bundle are, not very many of them. But I think it was smart of them to go with kind of a really reserved version of prepping. And you can click on any of these for the synopsis, read it here. You can also download a preview, which is usually about 5 pages. Yeah, this one's exactly 5 pages. So this one has kind of a recipe. It has, I don't know, images, a sample pantry for some reason, the right tools, and it's just kind of a random sampling. I don't even think these pages go in order. Who needs a tactical knife? So again, perfect for our EDC community. And so you can see it. I'm not going to go into that for every book because it would just take way too long. If you're interested, check it out. If not, don't. And so let's get into the 8 item bundle. This is where it gets a little bit more pricey. You jump up to a $10 donation to unlock these. And so I think this is probably the worst value. Either do the 3 item bundle, or if you're wanting more of them, do the 41 item bundle, or if you're just donating to donate, again, do the 41 item bundle. But this one comes with 8 books. 3 of them are going to be the same, so you can see the bottom 3 are the same. The first 2 are more of those apocalyptic prep books, which aren't really my thing, but they may be for you. Ultimate Shit Hits the Fan Guide, Survival Guide, and Surviving the Apocalypse. Now, next one is a nice one, Guide to Making Fire Without Matches. This is a nice reference book, but it's also just good to have in advance, learn those techniques so you don't need the book. And so it's nice because if you find yourself needing to make a fire without matches and you have your phone on you, you can just reference this. But it's even better if you practice those techniques and actually know how to make a fire. And so a lot of people watching this probably already know how to make a fire without matches, but if you don't, really, really good reference book for that. The Prepper's Pantry Handbook, so this is going to be on canning and that sort of stuff, food storage and shelf stable stuff that will last a decent amount of time, obviously not forever, but a decent amount of time, so you can build a stockpile, again, just to have food on the table if it ever becomes necessary. No-dig gardening, raised beds, layering gardening, container plants, and other no-till techniques. I like this one. It's kind of homesteady, but it seems like it would be good if you're limited on space. So maybe your backyard is pretty small and mostly cement, and so there's not really places that you can plant plants. This has container plants and raised beds and layered gardening, so if again you have very limited amount of space to plant stuff, it seems like this would be a really good option. So I like seeing that book in there. But again, all 8 of these are going to be in that $41 bundle, which you can unlock by donating $18. And so, going to go through these kind of quickly. I'll talk about the ones that are interesting, but the Trapper's Bible, have seen that one before, don't have it, so that's cool. Know nothing about trapping, honestly, so definitely a helpful one to have if you're ever in a situation where you do need to know how to trap. The Complete Guide to Edible Plants, Department of the Army. Another one that's good if you're kind of off the beaten path, you don't have cell reception, and to look it up on the internet, having it pre-installed on your phone, and if you're hungry and need to find food, food's usually kind of low on the priority list of survival, but a really nice comfort item to have something to eat, especially if you can identify a plant that can provide food for a few days and just give you a little bit of that morale boost of having some food in your belly and just tasting it. So next up is the Urban Survival Guide, how city dwellers can live well and frugally even in dire times. So this one's more just about kind of minimal living and self-sustainability than it is prepping. So you can see city living, self-reliance, emergency preparedness. So a little bit preppy, but not super preppy, more kind of in that homestead style, I'd say. Total survival, which this one's again going to be dealing with preparing for natural disasters, which definitely are things that happen: civil unrest, financial meltdowns, medical epidemics, political upheaval. So we've definitely seen all of these things in the last 5 or 6 years in varying degrees of extreme, but we've seen at least minimal versions of these. And so obviously it would be good to prepare for those. And I think a lot more people got into it because of situations that have happened. And so definitely good to get more people in that community. It's always good to be prepared. The Ultimate Book of Everyday Knots. This is another one that I kind of, with the fire making, I think this is a good one. You can carry some paracord around with you. It's doesn't take up any room in your pocket really, and just practice these knots when you're in your doctor's waiting room or at the DMV or on a plane. And so it's a nice reference if you need to tie something down in a pinch. You can reference it, do it in real time, but you can also practice it ahead of time, learn these knots so you don't even need to rely on it. And so like that one a lot. Prepper's Pantry is similar to our other canning book, but maybe it has different recipes or different ideas, different tips and kind of things that resonate more with you. And so I also like that there's a little bit of crossover, because sometimes stuff will resonate with you more from a different author or a different illustration than it would in the other books. So nice to have different choices there. Back to Basics, a complete guide to traditional skills. And so this one seems like a really well-rounded kind of self-sustainability slash homesteading type book again. Can it and ferment it, different aspect of canning and shelf-stable food, fermentation with recipes for a whole year, so a lot of different options there. Really kind of a nice hobby in general and a nice way to be prepared. Same with this next one, Joy of Home Distilling, Ultimate Guide to Making Your Own Vodka, Whiskey, Rum, Brandy, Moonshine, and more. That one just seems like it would be fun to me, honestly. Nothing to do with EDC or prepping, just making your own, that kind of satisfaction that you made it and testing it out and perfecting it. It's just kind of a fun hobby thing. I don't do distilling, but it's something I'd be very interested in doing. The Weekend Homesteader, a 12-month guide to self-sufficiency. So this one's cool because it's set up for a year. You can do, a month by month. The first month start with something, and it really lays it out. It's hard sometimes with all of the information if you want to get into homesteading to just do it all at once. So it's nice to have guides like this where it can be step by step, and it really gives you a blueprint of where to start. You can alter it yourself, but it's nice to have that kind of step-by-step guide on how to get through it and plan your way through it. Foraging for Survival, similar to the other one that I mentioned, really helpful to have downloaded so you don't have to rely on the internet, and you can learn to identify some of these. This is edible wild plants in North America. If you know you're going to an area that has certain plants that are edible, you can look ahead of time and learn to identify those. 52 prepper projects, same thing as the Weekend Homesteader. There's obviously 52 weeks in a year, so you can go week by week to building a full prep. At the same time, you can also just choose the weeks that make sense to you, so you don't have to do that. You can choose, these 20 are projects that I like, do them when you have time and never do the other 32. So like those kind of books a lot as well. Everyday Woodworking, another nice hobby one. Looks like you can make some really cool wooden tools, and I'm sure they do, tables and chairs and kind of basic woodworking projects outside of the tools. It seems like the cover is making Introduction to Woodcraft with 12 hand tools. So you probably make those 12 hand tools and then kind of shows projects that you can build with those hand tools. The Mini Farming Bible, this one's self-sufficiency on a quarter acre, so that's a kind of lower amount of land for homesteading, but nice to see. I'm sure they give you kind of what types of crops and stuff that you can grow in what amount of space to build a kind of robust homestead. The Disaster Preparedness Handbook, a guide for families. The Joy of Smoking and Salt Curing, another way of preserving your food, but also another just kind of fun hobby. The Big Book of Backyard Medicine, Ultimate Guide to Homegrown Herbal Remedies. And so, if you are really into prepping, or if you just want to be self sufficient, it is good to plant stuff that's not just food, but stuff that can cure different ailments and treat different things and prevent infections and stuff like that. So, good knowledge to have for sure. U.S. Army Survival Manual, Department of the Army again, the Ultimate Self Sufficiency Handbook, Bushcraft Basics, which I think is a really cool one. This isn't really preppy. This is more, you're going camping and you're going to be away from natural resources and the grid for a week or two. You can learn to be self sufficient off the land, but not plan to live off the land permanently, although probably still a helpful book for that as well. The Pocket Guide to Prepper Knots. This is another one that there was a similar book above, but especially with knots, sometimes if it's not a video, or even if it is a video, just being able to visualize it in a different way might be helpful. They might also have different knots altogether or different applications of how you can use those knots in there. So love seeing a different perspective. Ultimate Guide to Mushrooms. This is a shout out to Skibby. I know he does some mushroom foraging, and so kind of a good way to get into that if you have areas where you can forage in your area. This one also looks like it covers North America and Europe, which is cool because a lot of the other ones were focused on North America. It seems like this one has both, which is nice. 150 Survival Secrets, Adventures in Edible Plant Foraging, kind of same as above. The Pocket First Aid Field Guide, going to mention another YouTuber here, EDCQ, just did a story time where she talked about first getting into EDC. She was carrying a tourniquet because everyone said you should carry a tourniquet, but didn't actually know how to use it. There was a car accident. Luckily, there was someone there who knew how to use it but didn't have one, and so she was able to provide that, and they were able to provide aid to someone who was in that car accident. But it's really good to have that knowledge and know how to use your equipment, which she did learn how to use it after that. She kind of learned her lesson from that, which is obviously a great lesson. But nice to have a guide, and ideally you're not reading it at the time where you're needing to apply a tourniquet. For first aid especially, you should see what those techniques are, practice them, learn them, maybe take a course on them, even if outside of the book, take a course on them, know how to do it, so that in the situation you're not flipping through a field guide. Obviously it's better to have a field guide than not, but even better to just know how to do it. Next up is prepper guns, firearms, ammo, tools, and techniques you will need to survive the coming collapse. The Illustrated Encyclopedia of Natural Remedies, so again, kind of holistic medicine there. The Ultimate Guide to Navigating Without a Compass, which is another really important one. People have compasses but don't necessarily know how to use them. It's not as straightforward as you think, especially if you want to know how to navigate with a compass in conjunction with a map. If you are just using the compass to find north, even to make sure you're heading in the right direction, it's very easy if you're not constantly staring at that to say, okay, I'm going to head this direction, and then I check again in 1,000 feet, okay, I'm going to head this direction. And even after the first 10 steps, most people have veered off course already, and so you're going to be walking in a circle if you don't know how to kind of navigate that. And so really good reference guide. Again, learn it before you need it, because it's kind of useless at that point. To be reading along and trying to read the compass would be very difficult. The Essential Guide to Self-Sufficient Living, the Green Beret Survival Guide, the Ultimate Guide to Self-Reliant Living, which is basically the self-sufficient, the Survivalist Handbook, How to Thrive When Things Fall Apart, the Camper Survival Guide, which is kind of another take on that bushcraft. This one maybe is less extreme, you're at kind of pre-designated campsites, but still knowing how to start a fire or gather firewood, first aid, what gear to carry. So a little bit less extreme, but similar kind of vibe there. And then now we're getting to the repeat books. So that's all 41 books. You can see a lot of really great variety. There's more geared towards prepping and homesteading and self-reliance, but there's definitely some stuff that I would say is EDC adjacent or even EDC if you get into some of these books. I think the first example I showed, there was stuff on like tactical knives. There's definitely going to be stuff about gear that really is going to resonate with people in that EDC community. But random type of video, definitely check it out. There's is a timeline. You can see as I'm recording, there's 8 hours 9 minutes. By the time this goes up, or 8 days 9 hours, I'm sorry. By the time this goes up, there'll still be 8 days. This is going up in a few hours, so there'll still be time to order it if you're watching the video when it's published. But let me know if you want to see more type of these type of videos, just kind of finding things. I don't have these yet. I plan on buying it when I'm done recording it. I don't have these yet, but found these. I think it's a really good deal for 41 books. Even if you just go that $18 minimum, I'm probably going to do the 25 just to get, again, a little bit more donation going out. But at $25 for 41 books, that's a really good deal. You can keep them in your pocket, so definitely EDC related, but can do other kinds of stuff as well. We can do sales around certain websites or different types of gear, shopping for things now that I have the capability of recording my desktop and audio. So definitely open to doing more of this type of content, but definitely want to hear if this is even something that's interesting to you, or if you don't really care about this. This was a long video, 26 minutes, and so definitely might have lost some interest along the way, but I had fun doing it, and again, this is something I plan on buying anyway, so thought I'd share it with all of you, and hopefully you enjoyed it as much as I did. But thanks so much for watching. Be sure to like, comment, subscribe, hit the notification button. Definitely, again, let me know if you want to see more of this type of content or not super interested in it. And also, if the video format's a little bit off, like maybe my audio is quieter because I'm recording through a headset instead of the shotgun mic, or maybe the video quality is like pixelated. It obviously doesn't look like that to me, but maybe it is in the video. So definitely would like that feedback as well. Or if you have any tips on desktop recording, definitely open to that as well. But thanks so much for watching, and I hope you have a great one. Take care.